Hello, Ashley here with HeartHookHome.com, and today we are going to make one of these adorable little infant rompers. This is the 24-month size of this pattern, and it starts out with single crochet in the back loop only to create this gorgeous ribbing at the top. It's got these cute little ties that will be great for as the baby grows, just make the straps a little longer. And then the body of it is actually very open, and it's got this great breathability. So you can kind of see my hand through it. It's not so much that you'll see, naked baby or anything, but but it's nice and cool in the summertime. And then down here we've got our leg openings, but we've also got these adorable little snaps. So this will work great for diaper changing and everything, and I've included the snap instructions all the way up to 2-3T. So today in this video tutorial, we are going to make the newborn size. So let me move my work. For this pattern, you are going to want to use a cotton yarn. I'm using Red Heart Scrubby Smoothie. I love this cotton. It's a great texture to it, and it's super soft. We are going to be using 3 different hook sizes, believe it or not. We have a G, which is a 4mm hook to start out. Then we switch to a 7mm hook to do the body. And then we need a 6mm J just for one row to help tighten things up at the bottom. So in order to start, we are making the newborn size. I'm going to pull my yarn tail out. Let me tuck my yarn back here. We are going to start with our cotton yarn and with a G hook. So we're going to make a slip knot. And for the newborn size, I am going to make a chain of 55. So I do highly recommend following along with the written pattern that is available on Heart Hook Home. And I'm going to be doing a chain of 55 for the newborn. My 55. In the middle of round 1, right here, we are going to join this chain without twisting it. So all that means is that you're going to make sure that the chain is not twisted over on itself before we join it. So make sure that it's nice and flat all the way across. Okay, so now here I have it to where it's not turning or twisting or anything else. So I'm going to flip this down so that I'm looking at the opposite side, the underneath side, and I'm going to join to the first stitch here. So right in that first chain, I'm just going to insert my hook just under that back bar, and now I'm going to make sure that my tail that I used to start is coming down towards me to get it out of the way, and I'm going to join right here. So I'm just going to slip stitch that last chain that I made to the first chain that I made. Okay? Pull that. Now we've got a nice tube. So this is going to be right around her bust of the newborn. Okay, so now we're not going to chain or anything. We are going to single crochet in the back bar of each chain around. So this is technically the first chain. So I'm going to do a single crochet in the back bar of this stitch right here, the one that we just joined to. So I'm going to insert my hook in that same space, and I'm going to make a single crochet. And now I'm going to make a single crochet in the back bar of every single one of these stitches around until I get back to where we started. Just place that single crochet right under that back bar. There's that bump there. If you look at the front, you've got your normal chain. So you've got your front loop and you've got your back loop. And if you flip it over, you've got that back bar. And that's what we're going into. When you get to the end of this round, you want to make sure that you are in fact going into every single one of these chains. Your last one might be kind of hard to see. Just make sure that you're going into every single one of them. So real quick, I'm going to count to make sure that I have my 55 stitches because I need that to be 55 when we start the next part. So I'm going to ensure that I do have that many stitches before I continue on. Ooh, I put an extra one in there, see? So make sure that you have 55. Excellent. Very good. So make sure that your stitch count is correct. And now for rounds 2 through the rest of the bust. So now we are going to work, let's pull out my other example here. So what we have just done is this first row right here. So now we are going to work our way down the bust. So this is going to be just that bust portion. Now you're going to do different numbers of rows based on your size. Like this one is the 24-month size, so I've got 12 rows of the single crochet back loop only. On the newborn size, I'm only going to have 6 rows of that because they're tinier. So I'm going to move this aside. You are going to want to have a stitch marker. Let me grab my stitch marker. So, in order to start round 2, make sure that your chain or your row so far is not twisting like this. Make sure that it's going around in one continuous loop so that you can continue working into it. And now you are going to, with your row count, you're going to go into the back loop only of this first stitch. So go into the back loop only of that first stitch and make a single crochet. When we say the back loop only, if you look, there's a front loop here and a back loop on the back side. So we're only going into this back loop back here. Now I've just placed my first stitch of this row right into the back loop of that first single crochet. I'm going to use my stitch marker and make sure that I do not lose this place because that's going to be important later. So now I'm just going to continue making single crochets The end of my last bust round. So this is for the newborn size, my end of row 6. And when you get to the end of this row, you can remove the stitch marker, which is always exciting. Move that little cute little thing off to the side. All right, for the first actual row of the body, what we're doing is we're preparing the foundation for the rest of the body, right? So in order to start that next round, you are going to chain 1. You're going to skip that next stitch, and you're going to make a single crochet in the back loop only of the next stitch. So skip that one and go to the back loop only of this one and make a single crochet. Now you're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and do a single crochet in the back loop only of the next. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, and do a single crochet in the back loop only of that stitch. And you're just going to continue this chain 1, skip, single crochet in the back loop all the way around. And you'll be able to tell when you get back around, number 1, because we've got the tail that comes off directly below, and you can tell where you did your first chain here, right here. So just continue making your chains, skips, single crochets all the way around. Okay, so I made it back. I could tell when I tried to go into that one that it wasn't going to work. Okay, so now the next row is going to be your first row of the body. Okay, so now we are going to remove our G hook, take out the 4mm. We're not going to use that anymore. You're going to switch to your 7mm hook. And the reason that we're doing that is because we want it to be a much open, more loose, breathable stitch, right? So we're just changing to a bigger hook. So for the next however many rounds, all you're going to do is that same chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. So I've already have my stitch in this one, my single crochet, and then I've got my chain 1 here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to single crochet in the chain space. So where my finger's coming out right here, I'm going to place a single crochet in that chain space. So single crochet right there. Now you're going to chain 1, and you're going to single crochet in that chain space right here. Now chain 1, let me pull my yarn a little bit. Chain 1, go into that chain space. Chain 1, that chain space. Keep your tension as consistent as possible. You do not have to continue marking your rounds with the stitch marker. You are completely done with that if you want to be. Of course, you can still do it if it helps you count, then you can still do that. When I get done with my body, then we will count mine together so that you can see how to count those rows. Because not that a stitch marker can crimp your style, but it can slow you down a little bit having to take it out and put it back in. So now I am literally going to continue doing this in a spiral until I finish however many rows I have for my size that I'm making. Since this is the newborn size, I am going to stop when I get to row 33. So don't forget that when you're counting your rows, these are your bust rows, and so mine for the newborn size, I did have 6 of those. So this would be row 6, and then row 7, and then I'm just on row 8 right now. So I'm going to continue row 8 through 33 for the newborn size. I'm just going to continue doing the chain single crochet in this space. Chain in the space. Do not join, do not turn, do not anything, just This looks a little bit different because these here are all single crochets, right? Instead of this chain with the real gappy business. So now this should be directly on top or pretty close to your seam, right? So let me do one more right there in that stitch. And now we are going to fasten off. So I'm going to clip my yarn over here. And I'm going to pull it through, and then I'm going to weave in my end just real quick. I like to do an invisible join as well as I can. I'm not sure if that's going to be able to happen on this, so I'm just going to weave in my stitches, or weave in my yarn in a nice clean way. If you want to see a video on the invisible join, that is an excellent way to end when you're crocheting in the round. Okay, when I weave in my yarn ends, I didn't have any knots in this yarn skein, which is obviously lovely, but I try not to, with this stitch, I try not to weave my ends in vertically, except for go horizontally instead, because it helps to hide where you wove it in. Because if you do it if you do it vertically and it pulls it all, then it'll be glaringly obvious where you wove in your ends. So I'm just going to snip this here. And now we are ready to start the gusset. Okay, you're going to need some more stitch markers. You're going to lay your entire piece with the bottom facing away from you. So this is the bottom. And you're going to put your join from row 1 on the right side. So I'm going to fold this a little bit so that my join is way over here on the corner. Okay? So now it's laying nice and flat. It does a little bit of a bell here, but that's good because you want your leg holes to be big enough for those, you know, chunky thigh babies. Those are my favorite. Okay, so I'm going to grab some stitch markers. Beautiful. And you're going to need to look at the pattern size that you're making. I am going to have 25 stitches for each leg hole. You're kind of just going to eyeball it. As long as this is on the right side over here, you're going to just make sure that you have 25 over here and 25 over here. You will have one more stitch in the back than you will on the front because we started with an odd number of stitches in row 1. So you're going to have an extra stitch in the back. So the back gusset is going to be ever so slightly wider. So I'm going to count out 25. Okay, so I've gone ahead and made sure that I have 25 stitches for this leg and 25 stitches for this leg. We are going to have one more stitch in the back than we do in the front. So in the front here, we're looking at the back. So this is the front, and you want to have, on the newborn size, you want to have 2 stitches in between your front stitch markers, because on row 1 you're going to go into this stitch marker, work into this stitch, and this stitch. So you're going to have 4 total, right? On the back of this one, you're always going to have one more stitch on the back gusset than on the front, and we do that to make it just a little bit wider for our snaps, and because we have an odd number of stitches. So we're going to insert our hook into this stitch marker stitch and work our way into this stitch marker stitch. So let's go ahead and work this back gusset together. I'm going to insert my hook and remove my stitch marker. I'm going to pull up a loop. Chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet in this same stitch and single crochet in each of these stitches until I reach the stitch marker. I'll remove this stitch marker, and now, depending on what size you're making, you're either going to do 2 or 3 or 4, or however many more rows of this gusset. This is the newborn size, of course, so it's going to be the smallest gusset we have. So now I'm just going to do 2 more rows of single crochet right here, just these 5 stitches. I'm going to turn, chain 1, and I'm going to do single crochet in each of these stitches across. I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and I'm going to do a single crochet in each one of these. So now I've got my cute little gusset here. I'm going to go ahead and fasten off my yarn, and we will make the gusset on the other side. So flip your romper over, and look at your other gusset. So we just made the back. This is going to be the front. So insert your hook right where that goes there. Remove your stitch marker. And we're going to do exactly the same thing. So this is the front, so we're going to have one here, and then up the side. Get to the corner, do 3 in that corner stitch. Go across until you get to that very first border stitch that we did. Ta-da! So now I'm going to clip my yarn, and I am going to pull it straight through. I'm going to do an invisible join here. It's an excellent tool for making seamless crochet. So instead of fastening off by pulling over and pulling in a knot, I'm going to just take my yarn and pull it straight on through to make it come out the top. Now I'm going to thread my yarn needle. I'm going to look into the next stitch. So this is the one that this one's coming out of. I'm going to go into this next stitch here. I'm going to go into the whole thing. Now I'm going to pull that back this way, and I'm going to stick my needle in this side coming out of the middle of that same stitch. If you need a full tutorial on the invisible join, I highly recommend it, because look at that. Now you can't even tell, right? You cannot even tell. I love it. Beautiful. So definitely watch the full tutorial for the invisible join, also on my YouTube channel or on Heart Hook Home, of course. All right, so clean that up. Look at that beautiful stitching. Gonna weave in this end a little bit. Make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And now we are ready to sew on the snaps and put on the straps. And that was it. Isn't this the most fun, easiest pattern ever? I love it. Excellent baby shower gift. Excellent, because we all know how quick we can be to whip these out if we need to. So I'm going to weave in these ends, and I don't have any other ends to weave in except for where we started over here. So I'm going to go ahead and weave in my ends, and then we will add these snaps and do our straps, and that is all we've got left. So I'll weave in my ends and I'll meet back up with you guys. Alright guys, I have woven in all of the ends on my adorable little romper, and now I am ready to add these snaps. So you're going to want to get some sew on snaps. I got 10mm snaps because I liked the size of them. If you go a lot smaller than that, then they're kind of hard to get your fingers onto and around. So you're going to want to find a matching thread. Pull apart your snaps like this. I'm only going to do 2 since it's on the newborn size, and I want to make sure that it's not too many. So you're going to find a thread that kind of matches, or that matches as well as you can. This is what I've had on hand, so it's going to work nicely, I feel. I'm going to put the front snaps on, let's look at my other one, how we did the other one. So here we are. This is the one that I've already completed, so this one's the 24-month size. And I've gone ahead and put my receiving snaps, or my female snaps, on the back side, and my male side of the snap on the front side. So we're going to do that as well on this side. So figure out which one is the back side. Like I said, the back is going to be slightly bigger than the front. So now we're looking down at the front right now. I'm going to move that up to the top. So I'm going to put my 2 receiving sides on the back here. So I've got my needle and thread. I have already added that, or threaded my needle. I move my little snaps off to the side. We're just going to position these 1, 2. Like if you're doing the larger sizes, you could do 3 or 4 snaps if you wanted to. I'm just going to find a place that is right nice on the side. And we're going to just sew these on. They've got these little holes in the sides, and you'll just stick your needle up through those holes on the side. Kind of hard to see, especially since they're shiny. So I like to turn mine sideways and hold it in place with my thumb, and then I kind of just go behind and grab some yarn and stick it up through the hole, and just keep going around and around and around and around. So there's one time around. There's my little knot. I'm going to kind of just shove it under the snap so you can't see it. There we go. And now I'm just going to keep sewing the snap onto the romper. When you get enough on one hole, then you can kind of put it to the back here and move your needle over to where it's going to come out behind this other hole, right? And that way you don't have to clip and reattach your string every time, your thread. So it's coming out behind this hole now. So now I'm going to do the same exact thing, put it up through that hole, line up your snaps on the other side and sew those on, and then we will be ready to do the straps, and then we'll be completely done with our adorable little romper. Isn't that fun? So quick and so easy, and you can get a multi-pack of these snaps. I found some on Amazon for I think 100 of them. I'm not sure if that's 100 snaps or 50 snaps, you know, since you've got a male and a female in there. But either way, that's a heck of a deal. And if you'll be doing anything in the future with more snaps, then it's worth it. And like I said, I am using the 10mm size of the snaps because I wanted to make sure that they weren't too tiny so that they're hard to snap on and off. Okay, so now that I've got those sewn on very nicely, I'm going to pull it to the back here just a little bit and move it over. And I'm going to make a knot by pulling it up and then inserting my needle underneath the bottom here and just make that a knot. I'm going to do that one more time. Pull it up and then come through the back side of your loops there and then just pull it tight. Very carefully. And now I'm going to feed my thread over just a little bit, come out somewhere other than at the snap. And I'm going to clip that. I'm going to add on my other snaps and we will hook up to do these straps together. We're almost done. All right, I've got my snaps attached and they are looking fine and fancy. Got everything ready to go. All we have to do is add these straps to the top of our bust here. So in the pattern, it will tell you how many stitches you need in between these stitch markers. So for the newborn size, we want 13 stitches in between these two, right? Not including where they are actually having the stitch markers. Now you're going to have 13 in between on both the front and the back. So however many you have on the sides here, just keep it as even as possible. If you have an extra stitch, since we, you know, do have an odd number of stitches up here, if you have an extra stitch, just put it on one of the underarms. No one will ever know. So now we are going to work on actually crocheting the straps themselves. You're going to pick up where you left off. You're going to use your 4mm hook like we used to make the bust, and you're going to insert your hook to one stitch to the right of the stitch marker. So put your hook right in there, one stitch to the right of your stitch marker. So remove that. Now you are going to take your yarn, you're going to pull up a loop, chain one, you're going to half double crochet in that same space. So half double crochet in that same space. Awesome. Let me move this little guy back to the back. Now you're going to half double crochet in the next stitch. And now you're going to do a chain for your strap. So depending on what size you're making, it'll either be a chain 31, 41, or 51. Since this is the newborn, it's the shortest, so I'm going to chain 31 stitches. Get to the end when you're slip stitching all the way down. There's that last one you're going to go into. Now you're going to slip stitch into the side of that half double crochet where you did all of your chains coming out of. See the side right here? It just keeps things looking a little cleaner if you slip stitch into the side of that half double crochet as well. So slip stitch into the side of that half double. Now you're going to half double crochet in the next stitch on the actual bust. So half double crochet in that next stitch right there. And now you're going to single crochet in between here. Okay, so single crochet in each stitch until you get to one stitch before the next stitch marker. Because the base of our straps, they're straddled with half double crochet on the right, half double crochet where we start the straps, and half double crochet to the side, and then we do singles. So then when we get over here, we'll have a half double to start the strap, and a half double to end the strap. It just keeps things looking a little more uniform, in my opinion. So we're single crocheting until we get to one stitch before the stitch marker. Okay, so here we are, there's our stitch marker, so we stopped right here. Now we're going to do a half double crochet in that stitch. Remove your stitch marker, do a half double crochet right in there. Now you're going to do your chain 31. Slip stitch in the second back bar of the second chain, and slip stitch all the way down that chain. It really creates a thicker chain than just a chain itself, having those slip stitches in there. It's almost like an I-cord, but not quite. So it allows us to have a nice sturdy strap without digging into their shoulders too much. To the end, make sure you go into the side of that first chain, the back bar of that. Now go into the side of that half double crochet, slip stitch there, half double crochet in the next, and now single crochet around to the next stitch marker until you get one before that next stitch marker. You're going to run into where you did your join. This is where I wove in my end at the beginning. Just make it as seamless as possible. So just single crochet as seamlessly as you can. So there's my last stitch there. I'm going to go into this one right here just to keep things as uniform as possible. And it is nice if you have that already woven in there. Now we're going to end one stitch before this stitch marker. Do your half double crochet now. Remove that stitch marker and do a half double crochet in it, and now you're do your chain 31. Slip stitch your way back down that chain, and we are almost when you finish all 4 straps, you'll continue your single crochets around this side. This is the last underarm that I'm finishing right here. And then when we get to this first stitch, we're going to do that invisible join again. So like I said earlier, if you want to perfect your invisible join skills, it really does take your crochet up to a whole new level. So I'm going to do my last stitch in this last stitch right here. And now instead of fastening off and making a knot like I normally would, or joining and making a knot, I'm going to go ahead and clip this yarn right here. And I'm going to do that invisible join again. So instead of fastening off, I'm going to take my yarn and pull it straight on through. Now I'm going to thread my yarn needle. In order to do the invisible join, let's zoom in just a little bit. In order to do the invisible join, you've got your yarn coming straight out the top like this. You're going to insert from front to back in that first actual stitch. Now pull your yarn to the front a little bit, go into where that same yarn is coming out of, and go in and come out the back side. Kind of pull it just a little bit, and now you've got it to where it's looking like a stitch, right? And not like a big ugly bump. So now I'm going to weave in my ends here. Looks good. Clip my yarn. We'll weave this one in real fast to get it out of the way as well. Just going to go into these single crochets that I just did. Kind of weave that in there. Clip that. And now, oops, wrong direction, sorry. Move all of this out of the way. And now we can take our little straps here. Aren't they adorable? Just precious. Just precious. There we are. Let's do this side. Ta-da! We have ourselves a gorgeous, adorable little newborn romper. So this pattern is super fun. The pattern comes in sizes all the way from newborn. There's a 0 to 3 month size, a 3 to 6 month size, a 6 to 12 month, 12 to 18, 24 month, and then there is a 2-3T. As I said earlier, all of them have the snap button closures at the bottom. So the difference in the sizing, there is a sizing chart available. This is a free pattern on hearthookhome.com. There is a printable version as well, but that is not required in order to make the pattern. So I hope you love this little romper. He's adorable, or she's adorable. The baby's adorable, and it's got these great little leg holes. It's just perfect. So I hope you and your little one enjoy this pattern. Make a bigger one as the baby grows, and they'll stay nice and cool all summer long. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in our next video tutorial here with Heart Hook Home. Have a great day.